guys, welcome to my third episode of the Cristina Briseño Show. Today's guest is a true inspiration. He is an MMA fighter. He's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu competitor. He's a black belt in kickboxing. He's a second-degree black belt in Krav Maga. He's an entrepreneur. He's a business owner. He's an author. He's a father, and he's an activist. So thank you so much for being on the show, Marcus. Really, truly appreciate it. So tell us a little bit about yourself. There's so many titles that you have, which is amazing to have accomplished. So many people struggle just accomplishing one of all the amazing titles that you have. Out of all of the titles, if any, which one like totally stands out for you?
Being a father.
Being a father.
First and foremost. Yeah, it's nothing compares to it. You know, it's the most important role that I have. It's the most special. It's the most rewarding, and the job that I take more seriously. So. That's
amazing. That's amazing. And how old is your son?
Nico is 2.5 and Luna just turned 1.
Nice.
Yeah,
super cute.
so a lot of
keep
work.
You busy.
Very busy.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the hardest job too.
Yeah. Of course, being a parent, I have 3 kids.
Yes.
And I have teenagers, and yeah, it doesn't get any easier.
Great.
Enjoy them while they're little.
Yeah, right. Yeah. While they're still cute.
Yeah. So I was reading your bio, and it stayed on there that you started martial arts at 15 years old.
Yes,
okay,
that's correct.
So you started at 15 years old. But tell me a little bit before, your younger years, like what type of kid were you? Were you like an academics kid, a crazy kid?
That's a good question. When I was younger, school was very easy for me. Okay. So I didn't have to spend a lot of time, studying much. But I was doing well in school. I like to read a lot, so it came pretty easy. But I had a lot of energy, and we moved around a lot, so a lot of times I was the new kid in school, and I wasn't bullied, but I was tested a lot, and I would stand up for myself, and so I would get into some trouble, and I loved sports. That's always been my thing. I've had so much energy since I was really young, so I played football, soccer over here, ice hockey, I played a ton of different sports, table tennis, golf. Nice. I skied a lot because I'm from Sweden. That's what we do over there, we ski. Just enjoyed hanging out with my friends, and martial arts was really good for me to find martial arts because I had this amount of energy and a need for thrills. I was, I guess, a bit of an adrenaline junkie. So martial arts found an outlet for that many of the other sports couldn't give me. Okay. So I was lucky, in my opinion, today looking back at it, to be able to find martial arts and find an outlet for all that energy.
And how did you get into martial arts? Like somebody introduced you to it? Did you look into it? Or?
It's a good question. So at the time I lived in England, and I lived in Birmingham, which is the equivalent of Detroit over here. I went to school. We lived in a normal area, but I went to school in at the time, Chelmsley Wood, which is where I went to school, was the second roughest part of England. Okay. I guess the equivalent of Compton or South Central over here. Oh, wow. So there was a lot of trouble in school, and I got into martial arts just to learn how to fight better. Okay. And because I would get into trouble, and so for all the wrong reasons. But at the same time, getting into martial arts is what really put me on a path to, the more I would, train and spar and fight, the less I wanted to do it anywhere else. And where other kids would, start experimenting with drugs and so on, I was focused on what I wanted to do, which was to fight. So it put me on a good track, and that's also the reason why I wanted to give back with our gyms, with Systems Training Center, to be able to take what's given me so much and spread that and give it on to others. So
yeah, and that's how like a lot of people say that are in martial arts, how it saved their lives. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So many people were troubled, or they were in drugs or gangs, or different stories. But I've heard it so many times that either jiu-jitsu, kickboxing, whatever the martial arts is, saved their lives. Which is amazing. I mean, for me, I was not, I was a crazy kid, and when I got into martial arts, it was something completely new to me. I'm like, what is this? I'm like, and I wanted more of it. When I started, learning what it was for, the kicks, like the actual art of it, because it takes a lot of, to learn one kick, one move, one punch, it all kind of comes together. But it's just so intriguing, once you get into it. So I can see how, it would become an addiction to some people.
Absolutely, and it's a good addiction. We talk a lot of times about addiction and how it's something bad, right? Mm-hmm. But there's good addictions as well, as long as it's controlled, everything has to be balanced, and You know, what's so good about martial arts is that we start kids as young as 3 years old, and you know, you have a daughter that trains.
Right.
It teaches kids from a young age how to goal set, and the more you're into martial arts, the more you realize that you don't know everything, and you will never know everything, and it humbles you because there's always someone that can beat you, and at the same time it also drives you, it develops your mental resilience to continue, because you know, a lot of times people are scared of failing, and in martial arts that's all you do. Every training session you're failing
right.
until you start getting it, and that's why it's so important to learn that it's okay to fail, it's okay to not know something. No, everyone has stepped onto the mats at some point for the very first time, and once you learn that there's a process to any journey, wherever it is that you want to learn. If you want to learn how to play an instrument, or if you want to learn a language, it's going to be a long time of failing,
right.
and then you start seeing progress, and that's how you I actually just wrote an article about it not long ago about motivation versus discipline. You know, people say, oh, you know, I want your motivation. Motivation is an emotion. Motivation, we all are motivated at times, and we have days where we're not motivated.
Right.
And emotions, we can't, you know, if you're sad, you can't just say, I'm going to stop being sad right now. So discipline, you can not have the motivation, but if you can train your discipline, then you can become disciplined and still see results. And as you start seeing those results, you become more motivated.
Right.
So it's really important, in my opinion, to put kids in sports anyways. But you know, obviously I'm biased, this is what I do, but I think every parent should put their kids in martial arts.
Right, because it teaches them that discipline since, you know, a young age.
Yes.
Yeah, where some people want to wait till the kids are older and they're already set in their ways, or, you know, they're lazy, or they're just not interested.
It's definitely
you know?
harder when they
unless
get
they
older.
want to do it on their own, you know what I mean? So
Exactly.
yeah, so you got to keep them busy. You were born in 1977. I was born in January of 77.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
so 43. And then you went to the military in 1997, correct?
Correct. I joined the Special Forces in Sweden, the Rangers, and after, it's funny, not fun, now it's funny because I got injured. And a lot of times, you know, when people would think that, you know, I was with the Special Forces and I had this injury that took me 2 months to get back to walking. I was with a walking table and then with a brace and a crutch, and they thought something happened in the military. It was actually, we were playing a non-contact sport, and this guy was running, was going to jump over me for some reason, and I stood up and his knee, it was basically like a flying knee that hit next to my spine. So I had honorary medical leave from the military, and it's, you know, military is another way of training your discipline, right? And finding out what you truly are capable of doing, because they will push you past your limits.
Right.
And I love that, you know, I learned so much from it, but at the same time, you're learning to do it for, you know, something that is not nice, which is to learn how to kill people, and sometimes, you know, military is needed, but it's ultimately not something that every parent would want to put their kids into. So our goal with what we do as well is to try to teach people that discipline and that drive, and realize what they're capable of without having to send them to war later on. So that's the same vision.
And is a ranger, like, is that is it similar to like a SEAL, or like, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Rangers are special forces, Rangers are Army, Navy SEALs is Navy, right? You have recon in the Marines. So in Sweden, the Rangers, we have Green Berets as well, but it's not the same as a Green Beret in America. But Rangers is the Army's special forces.
And so after that, I also read that you graduated from, is it Kent?
University of Kent,
right?
correct? Yeah.
And then you were awarded a Sportsman Award in 2000 or 2002?
Sportsman of the Year, 2000, the year I graduated. I won the kickboxing, British Association of Sports, BUSA, that's what it's called, British University Sports Association, which is equivalent of NCAA over here. So I won the kickboxing nationals, and
nice.
And yeah, I was awarded that.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
Thank you.
And then from there, you went on to move to Mexico City.
Yeah,
right?
just north of Mexico City, Querétaro.
Okay.
So it's about an hour and a half drive from there.
Nice. And so what made you like want to move to Mexico? What was like the opportunity for you to go out there? Because it's like you're coming from London, UK to Mexico City, completely different languages, cultures, everything, right?
At the time, I was so focused on my fighting career, and all I wanted to do was to improve my hands. So I looked at, okay, where's the best place for me to learn boxing, especially my weight category. It was either Cuba or it was Mexico. So I decided to move to Mexico. I didn't speak any Spanish. I went down there, and I'm very, very happy that I went there. I lived in Mexico for 2 years.
Nice.
I learned a lot, what it's like to live, even England, as rough as it could be at times, when you see poverty, you don't see that in Europe to the same degree as you can find it in Mexico. To see
The
kids
third world.
begging at the traffic lights, you don't have that in Europe, and same when it comes to crime rates and so on. It's a different level. So, but at the same time, for boxing, at the time I was kickboxing. I wanted to improve my hands for kickboxing, and moving to Mexico and learning that true Mexican warrior spirit. That was it was a shock. I knew I had power in my hands, and getting down there and landing some of my hardest strikes, and the person was just in front of me still going. And I made my pro debut in kickboxing in Mexico City.
Nice. And you had a knockout out there, right? You had a
I
win?
had in 2 years I had 10 fights, I think. I had a few knockouts actually.
Nice.
So.
Nice. Congrats.
Thank you.
So did you learn Spanish while you were out there?
Yeah, speak fluent Spanish.
¿Hablas
now.
muy bien?
Muy bien,
Sí.
gracias. Sí, con acento de México también.
Really good. I was in Mexico City in January.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. I loved it.
I haven't been back to Mexico City. I really, really want to go,
Yeah, it's a
and I have a
great
lot of
city.
friends down there still. And
Yeah.
it's a huge city. It's crazy
It's a
how big
huge
it is.
city, and just the culture and the food and like the people, everybody. It's just amazing.
That's
Yeah.
what I really loved about Mexico is to I'm especially because I was boxing, so I met a lot of guys from the boxing gym, and when you talk about poverty, it's a different level, and
Right.
when you would go to the house, the hospitality they would provide,
Right.
you almost feel bad because you know how hard they have it, and they would offer you food and everything, and that's part of
But
I
that's
always
in
get
them.
asked by people, what's the best country to live in? And every country that I've lived in, from Sweden, Germany, France, Mexico, England, here, every country has its pros and its cons. And the thing that I found in Mexico is that Latin hospitality, that and the value of family as well,
Right.
that I think Americans can learn a lot from.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree. Okay, so after Mexico City, you came back to the States.
Well, I kind of did. I came to the States. I was going to visit my parents who lived in Detroit at the time, and met a guy who asked, he heard me speak Spanish and Swedish to my parents on the phone, and then English to him, and he said, how many languages do you speak? And he asked if I had any education, and then he asked if I had any military experience, and said, I think there's some people that would like to speak to you. And then I didn't think any more of it. This is 2001, 2000. Yeah, it was before 9/11. So I gave my parents' house number. And then when I had already left, and my mom calls me and she said, why is the US military calling our house asking for you? And it was recruited. So I actually went back. My social is a military social. I came here to join the Rangers here in the US. And pre 9/11, I got my social. It was a lot easier back then, but then 9/11 happened. I was still ready to sign a 4-year contract, and I flew back to sign. I did all the background and all the tests, and I was signing a 4-year contract, and then they asked for my green card number. And I said, well, I don't have a green card. I never lived in the US. And they went back to the immigrations and said, hey, you need a green card number. And they said, well, we don't do favors for anyone anymore. They've been scrutinized a lot after 9/11, obviously. So I was there for 3 weeks, and they were going back and forth. And I said, obviously, I can't just sit around and wait. So I went back to Sweden, but I wanted to move to the United States. So I actually Googled sports management, and I wanted to do a master's. And I wanted to be somewhere where there was warm, where there were beaches, and where I can continue fighting my fight career. And it was either Florida, it was Florida Atlantic University, or it was coming to LA, Cal State Long Beach, and which is where I ended up doing my master's in sports management.
Nice. Yeah, our daughter just got accepted to Cal State Long Beach.
It's a great school.
Yeah, it's a great school. Yeah, that's what I hear. So, yeah,
Yes.
Long Beach is a great city. We live in Long Beach, so.
It's nice now. When I moved here, it wasn't as nice.
No.
2003, 2004, it wasn't as good.
Yeah. With some sketchy neighborhoods for
Yes.
sure, but now it's just, you get a little bit of everything. You get patches, good area, bad area, but just the culture, the people. I love Long Beach. It's a great,
It's
great
really
city.
nice. I like the downtown Long Beach, and you got
They've got the Belmont Shore.
Yes,
Then you
we've
have
been
like
there
Bixby
running.
Knolls. You have all,
the aquarium. We're taking the kids there.
It's
So
very cool.
yeah.
Very cool. Great city. So just want to take a shift back a little bit to 2016. Okay, so is that okay to talk about?
Yeah, absolutely.
So just, your wife and you, Michelle, you guys have done such an amazing job with your nonprofit organization with your son, which is amazing to me. Me as a mother, I give you guys so much props for the way you've handled it. Some I guess people would just break down and never be able to come back from it, but you guys, the legacy that you're creating and you have left for your son, it's just to me, it's just so amazing how everything that you guys have created and the new law that you're trying to bring in. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, we lost our son Liam, and that's why we started the Liam's Life Foundation to end drunk driving. And like you said, a lot of times people struggle with coming back. A lot of times, instead of one life lost, two, or a lot of times parents separate as well, and then 3 lives were lost because they just can't find. And I met a lot of parents, especially a lot of fathers that years down the line are still angry, still bitter. A lot of times they turn to drugs and alcohol, and I certainly don't condone it, but I can understand it because you become so desperate to find ways to numb that pain that you're almost willing to do anything. But for me, and the way we look at it was, the best way to honor him is to live our lives to the fullest and make sure that we turn that into something positive. And at the time, I wasn't aware how big of a problem drunk driving was in the United States. I didn't know at the time that over 10,000 lives are taken every single year due to drunk driving. That's the equivalent of a jumbo jet crashing every single week. And the United States of America has the highest BAC level in any democratic free country, which is 0.08. If you look at Europe, where it's most countries have 0.05 or lower. In Sweden, for example, we have 0.02. To me, I was naive enough, or me and Michelle, we thought, well, this would be an easy change. There's been more than 100 countries that have already lowered it from 0.08 to 0.05 or lower. We have statistics from from more than 100 countries. A lot of times, cultures can play a role in something when laws are being changed, or you got to look at the cost to society, for example. Usually to change a law to save lives, it's going to cost money. Here's a law that doesn't just save lives, it saves money. It costs American taxpayers $300 billion a year in drunk driving related costs. Medical, legal, property, and production. People that can't work, right? And we went through a manslaughter case. And so to us, this would be an easy change. But another thing we didn't know anything about was the American political system, and especially when it comes to lobbying. And so we actually, in less than 2 years, managed to get the bill known as Liam's Law introduced in California to lower it from 0.08 to 0.05. And that was historical in California. And we thought, great, we have so much support from American medical, I should know the name of it, but the doctors, law enforcement, everyone knows how big of a problem it is, because they see it, fire, ambulances. So to us, it would be something that clearly should be easy to pass, and 3 Californians die every single day because of drunk driving. It costs Californian taxpayers some $30 billion a year. And here's a bipartisan issue that will save money and save lives. And again, can be proven to do so because it's been done in more than 100 countries, and every single country points in the same direction. You lower the BAC level, you lower the amount of deaths due to drunk driving. And again, that's just deaths. That doesn't include people that are paralyzed or injured and so on, right? So,
but just a person waking up, or getting sobered up, realizing what you've done, you know what I mean? It's crazy. It's crazy.
It really, really is. And the problem with drunk driving is that it's often not looked upon as a crime. If you decide to be a drug dealer or a gangbanger, that's a part of society that choose that route. The problem with drunk driving is that you get doctors that do it. You get lawyers, you get judges who do it. You even get law enforcement officers that drive drunk. And
they get away with it sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. And the problem with it is that people, people drive on average drunk 80 times before they're arrested. And so, a lot of times, say you drive drunk once and nothing happened, right? But, and we've even had people tell us I actually drive better when I've been drinking, telling us that. So, and again, it's not something that you get to decide whether you do or don't. This is science. We know what each 0.01 of BAC does, but the biggest problem that we realize is that people don't actually know what 0.08 means. They know that's the law, but most people don't know how many drinks that is. Do you know what an average 0.08 is?
Is it 1 glass of wine? Yeah, it's a glass of wine, right?
No, 4 to 5 drinks for an average male of 170 pounds within an hour on an empty stomach. At 0.08, you're not slightly buzzed. At 0.08, you're drunk. In my opinion, in today's society, you don't have a reason to why you should be allowed to drive. You've never had, but now you don't have an excuse whatsoever because of Uber and Lyft and so on.
I was going to say, yeah.
If you can afford a drink at a bar, you can afford an Uber or Lyft.
Right, $20 ride. You know what I mean?
Then you don't have to worry about parking, and you can drink as much as you want.
But it's amazing how many people will still get in their car, still drive, you know, just because they don't want to spend the money, but they want to spend the money on a drink. You know what I mean? Just irresponsible.
It's very selfish. And that's the problem. Like again, in Sweden, where I'm from, you know, you get taught from a young age that it's not just that it's a crime; it's illegal. I know criminals growing up when I was younger that, you know, they weren't good people necessarily, but they wouldn't drive drunk. And that's the thing, you know, people in America, it's the country of freedom and so on, but. And I love that. It's the reason why I live here. It's the reason why I'm an American citizen today. But at the same time, if your decision can impact other people, then it's no longer your decision to make.
Exactly.
So our job is, in my opinion, you know, if you're going to drink at all, leave the car at home. But so to lower it from 0.08 to 0.05 should be an easy fight for us. And the way, and we had to learn about the political system. So the way a law gets introduced, it gets introduced as a bill by a senator or an assembly member. In this case, it was an assembly member for us. It then goes to a committee. In our case, it went to the Public Health Committee and Public Safety Committee. And the Public Safety Committee, and I thought, oh, great, this is public safety. The problem with it is that the chair of the Public Safety Committee, his name is Reggie John Sawyer, decided that the bill wasn't even going to be heard. He tabled the bill. How is that democracy? When one man, who by the way received over $30,000 in campaign donations from Anheuser-Busch, can say that this bill isn't even going to be voted on. That's not democracy.
Yeah.
And that is, in my opinion, the highest legal of legalized corruption that there is.
Yeah.
So this man by himself, and only in California, can the chair of a committee table a bill where the rest of the committee doesn't even get a chance to vote on it. And that's what we're fighting now.
But it's all about money.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's all about the money at the end of the day.
And that's you can never put profit, you can never put money in front of human life.
Exactly.
So it's a fight that's going to take a long time, and we know that, we're aware of that, but we're also not going to give up. And through social media, it's great because even here, right, we can point out that someone like Reggie John Sawyer is clearly not concerned about the public safety per se. So it's going to be a long fight, but we also know that we're going to win one day.
And you have a petition, right, for people to sign,
yes,
right,
correct,
to vote and all that?
Change.org.
So I went on there and I signed a petition. So
thank you.
Yeah, if you guys can go in there and sign the petition, that would be awesome. So you also wrote a book.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Life is a Moment, which spells out Liam. And I started writing for me. I started writing because that was one training, and writing was my outlet. And that's the most important. The thing is, we learn so much in school, but we don't learn about grief. Unfortunately, every single human is at some point going to experience grief, whether it's a parent or a sibling or a loved one, you know, even a pet, right? And especially men, you know, we don't learn. It's a lot of times it's looked upon as a weakness to display emotions and so on. So I figured if I can write this book and if it can help someone else in their grief work, then you know, the stigma of being a fighter and being tough and macho, if I can open up and talk about my emotions and my thoughts and what I had to go through, then hopefully it can help someone else at some point, and as well obviously as get them not to drink and drive.
Exactly. And it was Amazon bestseller, right? So
yes, that's right.
Even if you touch one person, you know, you can't guarantee it's going to be, you know, hundreds of people, whatever, but if that's just that one person that you're able to help, you know, and then it goes on and on and on down the line. So that's amazing.
Thank you. And that was the goal of the book. If I can help one person, and I've had so many people that have written to me, both because it was translated into Swedish as well, both from the Swedish audience and people that read in English that have said that it's helped them. So you know, that was the purpose of it, and that's Liam being able to
healing for you also. I can imagine, right? Like
absolutely, absolutely.
You're helping somebody else heal with their grief, and it's also like healing yourself as well. So.
And knowing that, you know, Liam's passing is helping saving lives and improving lives as we move on.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I just want to ask another question. Is you've been in mixed martial arts for 20 years, if not more, right?
I've been in martial arts for more. Mixed martial arts, even when I moved here was to box and kickbox. But and UFC had started, you know, it'd been around for 6-8 years, something like that. And even when I started boxing, was to improve my hands. But then I fell in love with boxing. So then one week I would do a kickboxing fight, and a few weeks later I'd do a boxing fight. And when MMA came about, I wasn't that interested in the ground stuff. It actually took me a couple of years to fall in love with jiu-jitsu. But one day it was a gentleman named Van der Braga who was going to fight in the UFC later on, but he was fighting the late Joe Camacho, and he was a known striker, and he said, hey, can you teach me striking and I'll teach you some jiu-jitsu. And I said, you know, I'll teach you boxing and kickboxing, but I don't want to learn any of that ground stuff. And then one day he said after training, he's like, let's just roll a little bit. And he tapped me out without using his hands, just using his legs.
Oh, wow.
And then I was very intrigued, and I started training, and I realized, you know, especially at the time, there was very few people that I wouldn't be willing to stand up with and strike with. And I figured if I can just learn some of that ground stuff, I can fight MMA. And then I fell in love with MMA, and then I fell in love with jiu-jitsu. So nice. I just love combat. I love all of it. You know, it's almost like with religion. You know, you have a Christian person and they hate Muslims, and Muslims hate Jews, and in the end of the day, you know, it's like you're praying to the same God.
Same thing.
So, and it's the same with martial arts. You know, martial arts is supposed to do the opposite. It's supposed to break down barriers, to show that, you know, it doesn't matter what ethnicity you are, what culture you belong to, what religion you practice. But unfortunately, you get that in martial arts as well. Jiu-jitsu is the only way, or boxing is the only way. And I love all combat. And in the end of the day, it's never the martial art in itself, it's the martial artist and whoever can enforce what they're trying to do to their opponent. So.
Right. And you being like a true martial artist, so many true martial artists, there's so many people out there too that are kind of like fake it. You know what I mean? Like they put labels like I'm in jiu-jitsu just for a little while, just to say, you know, or they're doing kickboxing or they're doing that, but they're not really like practicing for the love of it. You know what I'm saying? Like I see that there's a lot of different places that I've been, that I've trained at, where it's just kind of like in and out, you know what I mean? Like it's just kind of like a trend type of thing, you know? And you've like stuck, like you're in love with the thought of the mixed martial art. Like what has kept you going? Just like the fact that you're teaching people, or like that, just because you're super like disciplined with, you know, your martial arts? At
this point, it's a lifestyle. Okay. I need this. It was part of my grief work was to do martial arts, and it's given me so much, you know, as far as mental resilience and fortitude as well, and the discipline and so on. So you know, and like in any aspect of life, you know, you get rotten apples, right? And a lot of times what that comes down to, unfortunately, is ego. So you get someone who maybe wasn't that secure in themselves when they got into martial arts, and then they get the black belt, and then there's another martial art that they're not good at. And the thought for them to have to start over as a white belt is the biggest fear, to look silly, right? To not be good at it.
Because you're already so...
Yeah, but I love the process of learning. I love to have someone come in that can teach me something, who might be a lower belt, and that shows something that I'd never seen before, I didn't know. You can learn from anyone and everyone, and there's certain martial arts that we know today that are not very effective in a street situation, but that's not to say that there's nothing in that martial art that can't benefit you in whatever martial art you're doing. So if you're a true martial artist, you should look to constantly improve and constantly become better. And like I said, this is obviously lifestyle at this point. This is what we do, but it's also, and again, I'm a bit biased because this is what I do, but at the same time, I know how much is given me. I know how much is given a lot of my friends and people that I've trained. And you know, from a kid that's been bullied to a woman that's been in a domestic violence relationship, or maybe been sexually attacked, and to be able to be empowered and come back to society again and to find the strength and say never again. You know, that's
It's amazing.
That's and that's something that I wish that everyone could actually learn.
Because some women that have been, you know, victims of, you know, violence or rape or whatever the case may be, they can crumble or they can come in, step on the mat, and like you said, you know, they might not know anything. They might not even know what they're stepping into. Because when I started martial arts, I had no idea. I had no idea when I stepped on the mat, like, what in the world is this? But it's empowered me so much to even be doing this interview with you, because it's so. It just makes me. It's nerve-wracking for me, but I'm. You know, it's a
but
fear
you're doing
that,
it.
yeah, but I want to overcome. You know what I'm saying? So
That's good.
So it's kind of, you know. So I want to interview different people with just so many different, like. Just different walks of life, you know what I mean? So it's just not just to one, but this is, you know, I love martial arts. It's an amazing sport. You know, I love. One other thing that I wanted to point out is, like, some people are like, you mentioned earlier that you weren't ready for your brown belt and they wanted to give it to your purple belt for so long. And some people just worry about, like, I need to get to the next level, and I need to be a blue belt or a purple belt, or they feel like, you know, they're diminished if they're not, you know, they're at a certain time or whatever. But to me, sometimes, like, it doesn't, I mean, it does matter, yes, because you're going up in levels of your training. But, like, coming in as a white belt, I mean, I've been a white belt since 2012, you know? But in my mind, like, if I step back in the mat, when I step back in the mat, like, in my mind, I'm already a blue belt, you know what I mean? But it's just kind of like coming back and moving forward with it. But what's your opinion on that, on, like, the belts, levels and all that?
Unfortunately, people, a lot of times, it's human nature to, you know, trying to go up in ranks and then to have someone who's below you. And but in the end of the day, belts don't matter. We know it from watching mixed martial arts. You got fighters in the UFC, white belts, blue belts. And in the end of the day, a belt doesn't matter. What a belt is supposed to do is just for the individual who reaches that belt to feel accomplished, that you've reached something, right? That's it. You know, as far as that, you know, and there's certain routines, you know, when you come on the mat, you've earned certain amount of respect when you've been on the mat for a long time. But it just because you're a black belt doesn't mean that you can treat a white belt any different as far as respect as another black belt. You know, that's not the martial art in itself, and that's not what martial arts should be about. It's just, again, unfortunately, at times ego comes into play, and that's what happens. But yeah, no, it's belts don't matter.
Yeah, it's all politics, right?
People should train. Everyone's on their own journey. My journey doesn't, you know, affect someone else. When I fight, that's different. My journey is directly impacted by my opponent's journey, right? Who can prepare for that battle the best. But now, especially when I've retired from professional fighting, now my journey is me beating me every single day.
It's against you. Yeah, it's you against you every day. Yeah, that's awesome. Awesome. Well, I just want to thank you so much for this interview. It really means a lot that, you know, you took me on.
Of course.
And you're a true inspiration. You're a true fighter in life and martial arts and everything that you do. And keep on fighting for Liam. That's amazing. And, you know, I'll put it out there for people to sign the petition for you and Michelle and Liam, of course. And again, thank you so much. And I'm truly blessed to have been able to do this interview with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.